A while ago I spoke about how independent developers were looking at the Switch more and more as a place to find success because Steam had become so crowded, so overloaded, very few developers could get a look in without some sort of advantageous resource. But more and more we're seeing a lot of indie titles get on there, some of which aren't so good, some of which are con jobs, and while we're not currently at the point where we're seeing games like Life of Black Tiger or The Unknown City on the Nintendo eShop, we might be seeing that soon. Inspired by the success of its Nindies, Nintendo wants more indie games on the eShop. Hardly a surprise, they've had a lot of success with some good indie games on Switch. The fact it can be used as a handheld means there are quite a few indie games that I might not give a look elsewhere, but picked them up no bother on the eShop. But Nintendo has said that it wants about 20 to 30 indie games on the Nintendo Switch a week. A cockin' week, though. We are actively engaging with indie developers at video game-focused shows and other events in different regions. Some of the indie games already released have gone on to become million sellers worldwide, said Nintendo's Susumu Tanaka in a shareholders meeting. You know, the only place where companies tell the truth to their real customers. In the future, we are looking to release around 20 to 30 indie games on Nintendo Switch per week, and we definitely expect to see some great games among them. So they don't expect all of them to be great. I wonder how many of them they expect to be good. Now this ain't quite as bad as Steam, where you can expect to see 20 to 30 games pop up a day sometimes, but it's still a lot. It's a fucking lot. It's loads. And what concerns me is that Nintendo's eShop layout is a bit pants. You whack 20 to 30 games a week on there without any of the algorithms and the recommends that Steam has, and I just think you're gonna see a lot of games get completely fucking buried. Once something disappears off the front of that store page, it's a bugger to find it, and there aren't even easy to browse categories, it's just a big wad of games. Unless it's a bestseller or on sale, it won't get another chance at a highlight again. Now Nintendo could change the way that works, they could start pumping algorithms into everything, they could improve the way the shop looks, they could add more categories, but it's Nintendo. Will they? Will they? They might. I wouldn't hold my breath for it, you know. Right now, at the time of talking, the Nintendo Switch is in a bit of a golden position. To me, it's got a good balance of top quality indie titles, some that aren't so good quality, and a good spate of AAA games. At the very least, the eShop isn't cluttered right now with half a dozen shitty asset flips. And it's not like it's a super exclusive deal. There are some titles on there that I was somewhat surprised to see. All-Star Fruit Racing. It's not a bad kart game, but it's not brilliant. Yet it got on the Switch no bother. I don't know quite how well that one's been doing in particular, but the indie developers I have spoken to have all pretty much said that they've been doing well on the Switch. It's a good place to find success right now, especially with a good number of developers being disillusioned with the way Steam's gone. I know we're in a very odd position at the moment where certain companies, certain publishers want to produce fewer games per year, do a lot less content, but try and make a lot more money out of the fewer titles they have. And then you get other companies on the extreme end of it that want loads and loads and loads of stuff, loads and loads and loads of stuff, quantity over quality by a country fucking mile. And I think both extreme ends really want the same thing, they're just going about it in different ways. They all want you to have a deluge of content, but they want it to chain you to their product. So Nintendo wants a lot of indie titles, they want you to stay on the Nintendo Switch all of the time. Meanwhile, Ubisoft may say it's done with traditional video games and wants ongoing live services, but the way they're going about that is, yeah, they're going to have fewer games, but those games are going to have more and more and more and more content, still quantity over quality, except it's all just for one game because they want to keep you hooked to their platform, and they of course see games as platforms now. That's why they're all open world games with the same copy-pasted crap all over them. And that's why they have the same attitude as something that wants lots and lots of games on its platform. Because okay, they don't want so many games, but they still want the same amount of time wasting. Just recently there was a story about what AT&T wants to do with HBO now that it owns it. And it wants to turn it into another Netflix, because they want HBO to directly compete with Netflix. It might be the opposite of what people get into HBO for, but it wouldn't be the first time a corporation's bought another property only to turn it into the exact opposite of what made it such a viable purchase prospect in the first place. And the same thing with YouTube. YouTube's made it abundantly clear what it really wants. It would rather have fewer channels of a huge level of success, but they still want those channels producing every single day. These channels often run by individuals who will then melt down, burn out, in fairly spectacular fashion with some of the headlines a few of them have garnered. And that's the really shit situation we have in a lot of entertainment mediums. The taskmasters of said mediums want more and more content, but they want fewer avenues with which that content can be built. And the ones who get fucked by that are the lower echelons who are just hustling and trying to make a goddamn living, such as independent developers who couldn't get their game noticed on Steam because it was buried under a tidal wave of shite, and now may be facing a similar prospect on the Nintendo Switch. Do I think 20 to 30 indie games a week on the Nintendo eShop is a good thing? Oh, I'll have to consider that for a few seconds. Do I believe 20 to 30 games released on that Nintendo eShop a week is a good idea? No, not really. No.